absolutely pissing down here at the turn. Marcus has kicked up. Jesus! Usain Bolt wouldn't get him now.
The legend becomes immortal.
Welcome back to Chat Shit. Round 13's in the books of the AFL season. It's Monday night here, and we've just had the Big Freeze King's Birthday game between Collingwood and Melbourne, which was an absolute banger, which we kind of needed this round. We had some other close games, but a very, very low scoring round, which is a bit unusual in 2025. But let's talk about this game that saved the round on Monday. How good was it?
Well, the round needed it. Let's just say that. There were a lot of games with large margins after we've had some closer rounds in the previous few weeks. But this game lived up to expectation. There were 77,000 people in the MCG. Dacos got the hardest of hard tags from Ed Langdon. They were playing games on the bench. Dacos went off for like 30 seconds, then came back on because he tried to shake Ed Langdon. It looked like Melbourne were going to charge home and probably win that game, but Collingwood just professionally get it done in the end. Yeah,
my favourite thing was that I haven't seen a tag to the level where when Melbourne had the ball and Melbourne were playing, had it completely like out in space, clearly like charging towards goal. Langdon was still following Dacos. So like he did not care. He was not relenting. You love those tags where if Dacos goes off the ground, Langdon goes off the ground. I love it. It's old-fashioned footy, getting under the skin of your opponent. It was really fun to watch. Dacos sort of overcame it in the fourth quarter, had a huge fourth quarter. Yeah. For those Supercoach fans, he got like 90 points in the second half or something. And he broke away because he's a class player. But it was an amazing game to watch.
I think it was a ridiculous game for the key backs.
Yes,
especially Jeremy Howe, incredible performance. Darcy Moore was sort of held, but still played well. Stephen May
phenomenal.
Was probably had an argument for best on ground, but bar one player, I think. Disco Turner, as they call him, with his new role in defence, really stood up.
Max Gawn
was huge. Obviously, the thing at the end where he had to try something and it didn't pay off, so you don't really blame him. He had a really good game and probably got the better of it against Cameron. But props to Melbourne for standing up and almost doing the job against Collingwood.
Yeah, when you talk about Max Gawn, just quickly, but we're about to move on to our top 5 players of the round, but you know, there are discussions about who's the best player in the league. And you look, Max Gawn, probably the most valuable player in the league around the contest as a ruckman. And then when it's not in the contest, he ducks behind the ball and is probably the most valuable key defender in the league.
Has a player ever had so much aura standing down the line?
Yeah.
Because I can't count the amount of times the commentators say, oh, they can't go down the line. Max Gawn has just placed himself there. I mean, seriously. To continue doing it, he's charging towards an 8th All-Australian. We're going to talk about it a little bit later, our mid-season All-Australian teams. Let's jump into the top 5 players of the round.
My number 5 is Aiden knows, and anyone who might have listened to a lot of podcasts, one of my favourite players going around, it's Miles Bergman.
Oh, yeah.
You talk about a round for the defenders, so I'm guessing quite a few defenders will feature here. Bergman was amazing as a half-backman that intercepts, a few contested marks, loads of intercepts, and was a huge part of Port winning. I thought he was their best player.
I'm actually a little bit disappointed I didn't have him because I was actually at that game at Monaco and he was clearly one of the standouts in that game. My number 5, I had Ben Keys. He's just really having a quietly impressive season. Another 3 goals, 20 touches, and they get the win over the line.
Ben Keys was my number 4 actually as well. I really think that we're about to be talking about our middle Australian team. I don't have Ben Keys in there, but I think he is so in and around those half-forward positions, just plays such an incredible role for Adelaide, pressure forward, but he's got about 25 goals already.
Yeah, 100%. He's not in mine either, but he's definitely on that fringe for that half-forward position. My number 4 was Nick Blakey. Had his record amount of kicks in his career, 31 kicks, I believe, was very effective. And I think he needs to just be released. Don't play this third key defender role. Let him play as a halfback. He's a halfback. Let him break off the line. I know it's against Richmond, but still we can see the damage he can do when he has the ball in his hands.
Yeah, we made a grand final last year. We were the best team in the home and away season, and Blakey was our biggest offensive asset. So absolutely agree the shackles should be released. My number 3 was Max Holmes. Just with Bailey Smith out, he managed to carry the load of the guy who's Bailey Smith's probably
and more.
Yeah, Bailey Smith might be the best player in the league so far this year, and Max Holmes just decided to carry the load. 14 more disposals than any other player. Holmes, who was seen as an outside player last year, 19 contested possessions today. So he really was doing it all. 10 clearances as well. Amazing performance.
I like it. Max Holmes was my number 2. My number 3 was Zach Butters. So like I said, I was at that game at Monaco Oval, and in the wet, it was wet and it was freezing. It was about 3 or 4 degrees when the game was being played. It had rained the entire day, and he managed to notch up 32 disposals at 75% with 12 clearances.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really tough in that game, and he really stood up.
Yeah, I think it's so entertaining to see in those games where it's really hard for anyone to be classy. Those 1 or 2 players that are only able to shine through. My number 2, we mentioned in our first chat, Jeremy Howe. I thought he was just so unbelievably dominant, and this is not an unusual performance this season. He is playing career best footy. He's one of those players at Collingwood that is suddenly just found their best footy at 30 plus years old. But he has just been magnificent this year, and this was his best performance.
Jeremy Howe at number 1
Yeah.
this round. I thought he was awesome as well. He was playing so well that Jake Melksham actually got shifted from Darcy Moore to Jeremy Howe because of the impact he was having in the game. And it's like less of the time he's flying for the ball and taking those huge hangers. He's more beating them on the ground. I feel he's like using his body and he's reading the ball better than anybody else. And for me, I thought he was the best player in the round.
Yeah, my number 1, you didn't have it all in your top 5. And it's understandable. He was in a losing performance. Sam Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's not much more he could have done for GWS. Let's just say he wasn't the issue. 4 contested marks, a bunch of intercept marks. As clean as anyone, getting rid of the footy as well. So in that style of game, to go at 90% with ball in hand. So he was absolutely dominant. Did everything he could to keep GWS in the game. Wasn't quite enough, but he is really a cut above any other defender in the league.
Really love having a round for the defenders. That's probably our record amount of defenders in the top 5. We'll move straight on to our mid-season All-Australian team. Straight into the All-Australian team. At full-back, I have Vlosten, Sam Taylor and Callum Wilkie. Half-back line, I have Wanganeen Milera, Ash and Jordan Clark. Across the centre, I have Bailey Smith, Ed Richards and Max Holmes, so no wingers in my team. Half-forward line, which I thought this was really tough to pick. I had Isaac Rankin, Jeremy Cameron, and I had Jack Higgins in there. Full forward, I had Jesse Hogan, Jamie Elliott, and Ben Long. Roving, I had Max Gawn, Noah Anderson, and Nick Dacos. And on my interchange, I had Liberatore, Tristan Sherry, McCluggage, and Jordan Dawson.
Okay, we have 7 players different. We have 15 in common in that case. So I'll start off at the back. I've got Nick Vlosten, Sam Taylor, and I've got Isaac Quaynor. I thought he should have been in the team in Collingwood's premiership year, and he's just been fantastic this year. Just to touch on Nick Vlosten, no one in the media, they were like the AFL.com released their All-Australian team. I've beat it into Aiden's brain. I've brainwashed him that Nick Vlosten is just about the top 2 or 3 defender in the league. He's elite. Doesn't obviously do much at Richmond. It doesn't do much for them winning because they got a lot of weaknesses, but he's amazing. My half-back line, Wanganeen Milera, Jeremy Howe, and Jasper Fletcher.
Ooh,
I have as my other half-back flanker.
Sure.
In my centre line, I've got Steele Sidebottom, Bailey Smith, and Hugh McCluggage.
Okay.
On the ball, Max Gawn, Ed Richards, and Noah Anderson.
Yeah.
Half-forward line, I had Cozzy Pickett, Jeremy Cameron. Cozzy Pickett, just the last 5 weeks have been sensational.
He was a toss-up between Rankin for me.
I think if you flip the start and the first 6 rounds and last 6 rounds, maybe a bit of recency bias. Cozzy Pickett doesn't make it, but he's been amazing recently. Cozzy Pickett, Jeremy Cameron, and Jack Higgins. Then in the full forward line, Hogan, Ben King, and Jamie Elliott.
Okay.
And then on the bench, Nick Dacos, Tristan Sherry, Sam Collins, and Jordan Dawson.
Okay, I like it. And my 2 honourable mentions are actually Steele Sidebottom and Ollie Dempsey as my 2 potential wingers. But I didn't. Did you pick? You didn't pick any wingers?
Steele Sidebottom, I had.
Oh, you had Sidebottom. Yeah. So I decided to not go with any wingers. I like it. We both picked 2 ruckmen.
Yeah, Tristan Sherry and Max Gawn. If there's ever a year where 2 ruckmen have to be picked, it's this year.
100%. You went with the extra key forward.
Yep. I haven't done the count on how many first-time All-Australians there are here, except I think there'd be quite a few this year. So a guy like Jack Higgins, Jamie Elliott, who's had such an illustrious career, but I don't know if he's ever even, I don't know how many times he's been in the 40-man squad, but he's suddenly just, have you seen, he's now 3 goals away from his all-time record for goals in a season, and we're halfway through the year.
Yeah.
And he's had a great career. He's always been a solid key forward. So ridiculous season for him.
Ben Long, definitely hasn't made an All-Australian squad before.
But, he's about 5'11", clunking them like he's Peter Wright.
For me, at least, Lockie Ash wouldn't have made a squad before. I don't know about Jordan Clark. Has he been All-Australian before?
He has not.
Hasn't been All-Australian before. So
Neither. Jasper Fletcher is probably the biggest wild card that I've selected here that would be the least likely to actually make the team, but I'm absolutely willing to put up a case for him. He's a phenomenal role player on one of the best teams in the league. Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira, I think, is in pretty much everyone's team at the moment. The unmatched sort of creativity from the back. But yeah, the 2 players that I'm campaigning for are Jasper Fletcher and Jeremy Howe. I think Jeremy Howe has been the second best key defender this year after Sam Taylor. Just outstanding every single game.
And you might notice we both left out Bontempelli, but he has missed 5 games, and if he does play the rest of the games for the season, he will notch up. I think it's the 16 or 17 games that he needs to be eligible.
And he'll automatically make it.
And he will, but just for now, while he's missed 5 games so far, we decided not to include him. We'll move straight on into hits and misses.
My hit and miss, I'm going to do it once, they're related. The hit is that there was amazing high pressure footy and great defensive performances, and the miss was that it resulted in some low scoring footy, which was a bit hard to watch at times. But I personally love that aspect of it, where you have teams just going at each other, playing the man, not the ball. I love that. We saw that in Adelaide. Brisbane sort of set the tone on Friday night, 68-63 between 2 top 4 teams, and it was not a shootout at all. The teams were actually there just weren't a lot of scoring shots. It was a bit of a defensive masterclass from 2 teams that are known for having really dynamic attacks. And then we saw that throughout the round, just incredibly low scoring. The highest score that any team scored this round was 81 points.
It's probably a little bit due to the cold as well.
Yes, 81 points by Hawthorn, the only team to score 80 plus points, which is a bit crazy. But then, on the low side of that, you get some complaints. You get a few less eyes on the footy, people turning the TV off because some people might not find that as entertaining to watch.
I disagree with those people. I love the low-scoring games where the team defense is usually the part of the game that's standing up. It's just really entertaining to watch for me. I go to my hit. So I said Adelaide, and it's specifically what they did without the ball. So they had 1 player in the top 10 disposal getters for the match, and all the talk has been about who they've played and beaten and their record against the top 8. But I feel like they silenced a few of the non-believers in this game. Yes, we can say Brisbane blew quite a few chances in the game, but a large part of that would be attributed to Adelaide's pressure and just the ability to hold on long enough to sort of make that eventual push and comeback, especially at the start of that 4th quarter. They came out completely firing and took the game and momentum right away from Brisbane and were able to hold on. Yeah,
and then what was your miss?
My miss was Gold Coast. So before the game, they have a horrific record against Geelong, and especially a bad record against GMHBA. I think the commentators said they averaged a 72-point loss at GMHBA. They hadn't played there in a couple years before this, but still 72 points is massive. They had a real chance to take a scalp and were quite honestly beaten up by Geelong. It might not necessarily say that on the scoreboard. However, they were minus 23 in contested possessions, minus 68 in uncontested possessions, minus 50 in marks. And you might be thinking, okay, so Geelong's game plan was to possess the ball. But Gold Coast were also minus 15 in tackles, minus 17 tackles inside 50. And especially with Bailey Smith being a late out, I think it was a real chance for Gold Coast to make a statement.
Yeah, 37 points. There are certain metrics that you see that can maybe cut someone out as a real premiership contender. Like most years, the team that wins the premiership is not scoring less than 40 points in any game in the year, no matter the conditions and the opponent. So, they can't get beaten up like this by sides if they want to be taking themselves seriously as a contender. But you really hope that they make finals. They've got the game in hand on about half the teams in the league, but now sitting 8-4, the really hot start to the season has mellowed a little bit.
I think if they can't make finals this year, it's just pack it in at that point. With the
Just
team that they have, the names on the end, the coach that they have, and the years that they've been waiting, They have to make finals.
I can't go back to a 17-team league, man. Buys every week. I can't go back
we're getting to it as well. Tassie Devils coming in.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll move on now to our Guess Who weekly segment.
Okay, so we're going to change the format up in Guess Who a little bit here. I've got the clues to leading to the player, but instead of just giving Sam unlimited time to guess, I'm going to wait 10 to 15 seconds, and then I'm just going to go say the next clue. And he can spit out as many guesses as he wants, and the clues will narrow down the player more and more. We have 10 clues, and then the 10th one is just the player's name.
Can I spice it up by making a guess before the first team?
Go on, right now.
Calamachi.
No.
Okay.
We're going to move. We'll move straight in. First clue, we're going to have a timer like we had last time at the top of the video, starting now. This player is number 1 for frees against.
Max Gawn.
Incorrect. I'll go straight on if you have a guess.
Oh. Tristan Sherry.
Clue number 2, he's played for one club.
Harley Reid.
It's Harley Reid. that's the quickest.
I know he gives away a lot of free kicks.
I thought that. I'll just go through the rest of the clues. So he's number 2 for Clangers. The 4th clue was doesn't play for a club in Melbourne. 5th clue was 33 career games. Then plays for a team in WA. Plays for West Coast. Drafted in 2003. Drafted at number 1. Player's name is Harley Reid.
Yeah, for my fans and our 6 viewers on this video, I've recovered from last week. Last week was a shambles.
Last week was a little bit of a shambles. There was Callan Ward. I thought just starting with those stats might make it a little bit challenging, but fair enough.
Yeah.
We'll move straight into the next segment in the Footy Pyramid. Straight into the Footy Pyramid, and we have 2 outs. It's getting harder and harder to get into the Footy Pyramid. But our 2 outs are Jamie Elliott, who was completely held in this game. It's really hard for small forwards to maintain their place in the Footy Pyramid just to keep putting up stats. And Patrick Cripps is out of the pyramid, was extremely quiet. Has had a relatively quiet last few weeks as well. Yeah,
it was only really in the pyramid due to his last couple of years, really.
He had that name.
He's not been top 15 this year.
His stats would say otherwise, but I'll go straight into the 5th tier, which means we have 2 new ins. Max Holmes is going to enter the pyramid, and Nick Martin is going to enter the pyramid.
Yep, love it.
I don't know if he's ever been in my pyramid before, but if you have a look, and I don't have the stats in front of me, in his last 5 weeks,
they've been awesome.
Ridiculous. I mean, you can get it up now quickly. He'll be at the top 3 disposal getters, and
a goal 32 led the game in disposals this week. Week before, he had 2 goals and 29.
And you can keep going.
Yeah, you can
go all the way back to when they played Sydney.
2 goals, 35 with 9 marks, 8 tackles before that.
Even in the big loss there.
Yeah, a goal 25 in the big loss. And then against Sydney, absolutely killed us with 38 touches.
And he's quite honestly playing everywhere. He's taking the kick-outs, he's playing on the half-forward line, he's kicking goals, he's sometimes in at centre bounce.
And he's the player that they want the ball in his hands.
Absolutely, and I think he deserves to be in the top 15 players in the league. Rounding out the 5th tier, I have Jordan Dawson, had a decent game. Hugh McCluggage, and Jeremy Cameron's going to move down a tier, was held to 0 goals and I think 6 touches in the game, so it was no impact.
We got to protest about this.
Moving up into the 4th tier, Nick Dacos is going to hold his spot. I think still did well considering the tag he copped in this game. Noah Anderson's going to hold his spot. Had a really good half of footy before he was taken out by Tom Stewart, who didn't receive a match ban and wasn't able to carry out the game for concussion protocols. Sam Taylor's going to move up a tier, now in the 4th tier. And Liberatore is going to move down a tier in the 4th tier. Had his quietest game.
14 disposals.
Yeah. Very little impact. Moving into the 3rd tier, Tristan Sherry is going to move into the 3rd tier.
Beautiful.
Alongside Max Gawn and Isaac Heaney.
It's very symbolic, Sherry and Gawn next to each other.
100%, and they just keep putting up the numbers. In the 2nd tier, Bontempelli's going to hold his spot, and I've decided to hold Bailey Smith, even though he didn't play. I don't think any of the players below him necessarily deserve to move up, and just based off previous performances, still probably the Brownlow favourite. I don't think he deserved to move down. And Ed Richards is going to sit on top. Just continues to put up numbers even amongst the Western Bulldogs' loss.
Yeah, I love that there we got a big mix of defenders, forwards, midfielders, ruckman going around.
Yeah, I think last year it was about 14 midfielders and 1 defender.
And
give or
Sam
take.
Taylor, I convinced you to put Sam Taylor in by the end of the year.
100%. I think last year might have been 13 midfielders, Tom Stewart and Sam Taylor.
Yeah.
That's about it. But that's the pyramid in front of me. Let me know if you'd make any changes. Let's move on to the power rankings.
We start off with West Coast and North, who stay at the bottom. It was the game that was only kept alive for viewers by having Tristan Sherry as your Supercoach captain. Only reason that anyone really watched that game. Richmond, it was a great holiday in 15th place last week.
Yeah.
There was a very emotional placing of Sydney down in 15th for me, but they do move back up by demolishing Richmond this week. Then St Kilda dropped to 14th from
13th.
From
Just one
13th
spot.
due to the performance of another team, Port Adelaide, who actually jump all the way to 12th, with Essendon dropping back down to 13th. So Essendon, we said that they had a very easy run to start the year, got themselves to 6-4, but the footy that they're playing against any team that is really top 8 or top 9 level was really concerning, and we're starting to see that now that their fixtures are getting more difficult.
You've been pretty solid on the ladder line for Essendon the entire year.
Yeah, so they were beaten, I think, quite comprehensively by Carlton until they made sort of a late comeback, which fair enough to them.
Which was the same with Brisbane last week as well. They seemed to get smashed up the water, teams maybe relax, and then they sort of pile on the goals.
Yeah, so you know what? I wouldn't rule out them making a finals charge, but I think this is about where they sit. And then Carlton with that big win, I'll push up to 11th there. Their season's alive. And then Melbourne in 10th played a really fantastic game. Considering their start to the year, if they just didn't have such a tragic start to the year, they'd really be seen as, I reckon, up with those top 6 or 7 sides at the moment with the quality of footy that they're playing. But just due to that start of the year and where that places them in terms of their finals hopes, they sit down here in 10th.
Yep.
GWS in 9th. Still just, a poor performance here, scoring 50 points against Port Adelaide.
Just flirting with finals
at
the moment.
And just when we talk about what GWS have been known for these last few years, I've mentioned it way too many times. I'm not going to say Orange Tsunami again after this episode because we haven't really seen it this year. But scoring 50 points against a team that has been letting in huge amounts of points, Port Adelaide, like 130, 140 against finals contenders. Really disappointing offensive performance from GWS. Fremantle in 8th. Unfortunately, they dropped with the bye.
Yep.
The Bulldogs in 7th. And the reason that they dropped with the bye is that Hawthorn got a really important win against the Bulldogs, played some awesome footy.
Comprehensive win.
Yeah, we know that when Hawthorn have their confidence back, and so much has been said about Will Day coming back into that midfield and the effect that that'll have, we know that they are an incredibly class team, move the ball as quickly as any of these finals contenders, and they will be an absolute threat come finals time.
Yeah.
Gold Coast in 5th. I reckon, I know it's a really harsh thing to say, but the opposite of a team that's going to be one of the biggest threats in finals time. You almost see them as a team that's going to do really well, doing really well in this home and away season. But when they come up against these other contenders recently, they're not playing as well as we saw this week. And I'm concerned because I'd really love them to get a top 4 spot and go deep in finals this year. Brisbane stay in 4th.
Yeah.
Yep, and jumping up ahead of them is Adelaide.
Yeah.
Who got it done against Brisbane. Yes, it was at Adelaide Oval, the fortress for the Crows, but they're just doing it week after week. Just made the Swans look like an absolute bottom feeder of the league, and then they just got it done against the Premiers, who were sitting second on the ladder before the game. So, huge clash, and as you said, proved a lot of the haters wrong. And then staying in 1 and 2 are Collingwood and Geelong.
Yeah.
The Dad's armies showing you do not need to be young and always move the ball incredibly quickly. But just touching on that, it's a bit of a random point, but on Collingwood, the way that they can just flick the switch from playing so controlled, chipping the ball around, chip mark until entering the 50, to then from a kick out, going from kick out to goal in about 15 seconds, the way that they can just switch from gear 1 to gear 20, it's absolutely remarkable. I don't think any other team in the league has that capability to just switch their style. It comes with all this experience and class that they have in their team. Clearly extremely well coached. Craig McRae with a few years under his belt now. It's really hard to see Collingwood getting taken down.
I think it's a serious mark of champions.
Yeah.
Just being able to, if they're behind late in a game, really push. And the commentators were even saying in that last quarter, Collingwood will know exactly what to do in this moment. And you can see them making a push, which they did. And when they're holding on, they know exactly what to do, how to kill time, how to hold the ball in the contest.
Yep.
It's just, as you said, experience is paying off.
Yeah, and it's not a mystery how they're like. I feel like for a couple of years it's been a mystery how Collingwood always able to hold on in these big games. But then you see when they're in these huge moments, it's Darcy Moore, the captain, to Scott Pendlebury, the most level head in the league, to Steele Sidebottom, the other most level head in the league, straight to Nick Dacos, just incredibly. Like they just have these names all over the ground who just make good decisions.
There's so many role players in that team. They don't really have a standout for... I mean, bar Elliott this season, but going into the season, you really could say they didn't really have a standout forward, but they all just play their roles, chip in with 2-3 goals every now and again, and they get the scoring on the board.
Yeah, we see Tim Membry couldn't get a game really, or wasn't consistently in the 22 for St Kilda, and then he comes to the best team in the league, and he's a mainstay in their forward line. So they're really getting the best out of all their players. Yeah,
we'd love to know what you think about our All-Australian teams, the power rankings, the pyramid, and we'll see you all in the next one.